Hey guys, Jeff Sprague here. Want to talk to you a little bit about Okeechobee. What a great event that turned out to be. You wouldn't know that by watching the first day of our event there. Had a great practice there. I mean, those fish were really set up, and I think it would have been a much better event had the weather held out for us, but we were throwing a really big curveball there with the weather, the north wind, the cold temperatures, and it really hurt those fish. And we, some of us just survived, which really turned into my first day of the event. So what's crazy is I really thought that I had found something special there offshore with a thunder cricket, and it was an edge of an eelgrass line. And it's crazy because I started right here. Aaron Martin started on one side of me, and Jacob Prosnick started on the other side of me. And and we all found similar things. We were just looking for different structure relations. And after the first day, I had quite a few non-scoreable bass, and Aaron had a couple scoreable. I think Jacob just had a couple of scoreable bass as well. And it just didn't work out for me. I didn't score one, so I was in a little bit of a panic mode, and I was a little bit tender still. Didn't want to get on that big water and run around with my back the way it was. So I opted to play it safe and stay where I was at and move in and out and try to find those fish that we had found. And I could not do it. I don't know where they went. I ultimately found out where they went because Prosnick won on them. They actually moved in. So, but that was really cool. I abandoned that and on my second day and ran over to an island area where I had a lot of bites in practice as well. I just didn't see the quality there that I had seen over where I started the first day. And so I was a little leery about going over there, but I'm glad I did because it's so crazy how fast that lake changes. On day 2, I went over and I started again at the same area where Prosnick did, but I left after the first period because I only caught one scoreable bass. And I'm like, I have to salvage my event and go over and just see if those other fish were still there. Because I had some smaller, some 2-pound bites, but no big ones like what I had in practice at, where Prosnick was at. So, man, I get over there and it's like nobody has messed with those bass. I run in there and I just go to work on them. It's really fun, and it was a fun 2 periods, and I didn't want to burn too many because I climbed the scoreboard really quick, and I knew I was inside of that cut to make the top 40 and go on to try to qualify for championship round. And what's really cool is when I pull in there, there's no one in there. And I do round the corner, and way in the back over, I see another one of our competitors, but there's only one guy. I pick up the Strike King swim jig. This is the Hack Attack swim jig. I was actually throwing the heavy wire hook, but this is the exact same color. It's in a perch color. And I alternated between this Rage Menace and another soft plastic trailer. But those fish would wake over from 5-6 feet away, just make a beeline right for it and just smash it. Super cool, super fun way of catching them. I'm talking about just like wear your shoulders out type of fun. And I really had a great second day of the event, which put us in, the running to go and qualify for the championship round. So we didn't get a day off. We got to go right back out the next day, and I'd kind of laid off those fish, and I was kind of excited because I could see some spawners. It was clear water in there, and I didn't have a lot of pressure. That all changed on the elimination day when we go back in. Man, we kind of had quite a few local guys show up in there. And then I found out that Wheeler's in there as well. We had been fishing opposite days, so we hadn't been fishing around one another, but come to find out we'd both been in there, it was okay. Had either one of us had that to ourselves, we probably win the event. But when you split the fish down the middle and let guys catch them like we did, then it divides up the fish, but that's part of this game. But again, I went in there on the cut day and continued just to throttle them on the swim jig. That was a really go-to deal for me there, and I caught a lot of my fish on it. Just a lot of catches, and they were all like 2 3/4 all the way to like 3 3/4. That was pretty much the cut day to make championship round. All those fish were just good quality fish, and so I was really excited to get back in there for the championship round when we did make it. And you know, with the weather stabilizing and then we were actually going to have a little bit of some possible thunderstorms, that fires those fish up in Florida a lot of times. And little things like that move the water. If the wind will blow from the east just a little bit, or a little bit out of the west, or a little bit out of the north, instead of blowing so hard, it pushes the clean water around in those areas. And ultimately, it's like opening the door for more fish to bite. Basically what that is those fish get out there, and when the clean water rolls in, it seems like they fire and they eat. And when the water moves, the dirty water moves back in, they just shut down. So learned a little bit about that place. And we made the top 10. So now we get to go to Championship Sunday, or just Championship Round. We've always known it referred to as Championship Sunday, but it's actually Championship Round. So I was excited to get back out there. I was a little nervous because I knew I'd burn up some fish, but we got there and it was a little different. There was very little to zero wind, and championship morning I pull in there, and you know, I'd been fishing that swim jig, but I saw some fish that were really right underneath the surface before lines in, and so I had a gurgle toad tied on. This is just a green pumpkin and silver gurgle toad with a 5/0 screw lock wide gap hook, no weight, and I picked this up and went to work that morning. I caught the first one was just over 5, it was almost a 6-pounder, and then lost several big ones, and I didn't realize that those big ones had moved in. It took me a while, because all of a sudden I noticed that all those fish that I were getting to bite in previous rounds, they weren't biting anymore. They weren't small ones. They're all giant fish. That's what was really crazy to me, and it took me some time to realize what had happened. So basically, that wave of males had been in there and set up on those beds and had been there for, you know, a lengthy period of time. I'm going to go on a limb and say, you know, a week, you know, as long as we've been there. And when I went in there and practiced and got the bites, and then when I went in there every day, it got different. It got better and better and better, meaning they went from little males barely being 2-pounders when I was in practice that I was a little skeptical about going, to where some smaller, or some small females and some larger males moved in, all the way up to when championship round overnight, the females showed up and they were chomping. I caught several of my big ones that day on the gurgle toad, and then the remainder of them I really fished hard on the swim jig. Lost several really big key fish there that would have probably put us, you know, in a much better position to do better in the event. We ultimately finished top 5, but I learned something about those fish, because how quickly they can change. You can't give up on them if you go into an area and it feels right and it looks right. You have to go back again and check it again. And if you don't, you could miss out on it. A guy could pull in and he could do it just on a whim because he had the bites there. And you'll notice that a lot of times when you're in a tournament, or when you go into a tournament setting, you're in practice and you find the big ones, okay? Like you're in practice 2 or 3 days in advance and you're like, man, they're loaded in here. Well, then you go back in the tournament and you can't get a bite, or you can't get a big female to bite. It's because those fish came in, they did their business, and they moved back out. And you're just not going, they're not there anymore. So you have to re-hunt them down, meaning like there's another area in the lake, probably another pocket somewhere else that wasn't right a week ago or 2 or 3 days ago when you practiced it, and now it's right, and those females are doing it in there. So it's all about timing, and that's a really big key, and that's a really big thing that, you know, as an angler we have to understand that. And you know, we think that these fish are so smart, and they are. They're very wily and smart. However, it's all about timing, and it's all about the right bait and the right presentation. So that's what got it done for me on Okeechobee. I really enjoyed that event. I had a great time down there, and to walk away from Florida with the second event and a top 5 finish, great points towards the Red Crest, and I can't wait to get back to Florida. She's been good to me down there, and I always look forward to getting back to that shallow water and that warm weather.